Welcome back, everyone. The San Antonio Spurs won the NBA draft lottery and therefore won Victor Wembanyama. We all know it's going to happen. It's simply a matter of when, not if. And what better way to send off a legendary head coach like Greg Popovich than by giving him an absolute freak of an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, it just feels right? The NBA universe, the NBA gods, they're looking out for us. You think about Greg Popovich's career, and you think about Wemby the unicorn, if you will. It just feels right that he'd be going to Pop. The 19-year-old, 7'5", crazy athletic, good shooting, versatile player, going to the most safe coach in the NBA. I'm so excited to talk about the outlook for this team.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, Wemby can completely change the direction of their team. I know the hype is huge on him, and rightfully so, but if anyone can truly turn their team around other than, like a renowned star in the NBA already, like a rookie doing it, it could definitely be Wembanyama. If you remember back to 1997 when they drafted Tim Duncan, they won the NBA championship the season after. Now, they did have David Robinson, who they drafted in 1987, and he obviously helped them do that, but San Antonio has a proven track record of turning things around quickly. Who knows, history could repeat itself again with Wembanyama. And now, I'm not saying they will win an NBA championship within a year or anything, but I think they'll be more competitive than some might think.
Yeah, this season's going to be definitely crazy for the Spurs, right? I think that right off the rip, this is just my personal opinion, I think a lot of people will agree, right off the rip, the defensive versatility of this team with that rim protector, the Spurs were no strangers to just switching up the lineups, and I think that's probably going to continue. I'd say you maybe have 3 players at a lock, maybe 4 players at a lock, but and that depends to what we're going to be looking at in the rest of free agency. But I mean, it's going to be a lot of changes. We're going to see a lot of interesting things, I think, and I'm excited to see how Wemby blends in with everybody.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of free agency, the Spurs, they will have over $40 million in cap room potentially to spend if they want to. Now, some of that will be spent retaining their own players, like a Trey Jones probably. But if they really wanted to, they could go out and spend money, bring in maybe one bigger name player. I'm not going to speculate on who that could be quite yet, but 2 or 3 good role players, help make, maybe a little mentorship and help make them better to be able to make a playoff push. I think they could do it, and given that Wembanyama stays healthy, I think they could be good enough to make a playoff push, maybe be a number 7, 8 seed, and just be a really good, fun young team to watch.
You talked about cap space. I think they have up to 43 million, like you said.
Yep.
And I think, Wemby's expected to get, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 9 mil, a little under 9 million, I think.
Roughly 9-10 million. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, I think that's the projected
Trey
number.
Jones, I think Trey Jones should be capped. I think they should try and keep. I can't see him leaving, honestly. I don't know why he would. He's an okay, solid point guard for them, but I think he's expected to kind of be worth around 5 million. So I mean, that leaves a lot of money on the table. Almost 30 million on the table still. Like you say, maybe target a veteran shooting guard, center, perimeter defender, or maybe just a couple good players, like you said. I think that would be probably the best way to go. But yeah, I don't know where they're going to go with that.
Yeah, and speaking of their payroll, they have a lot of kind of, mid-range salaries that they could trade for a better player, or I don't know, they keep them too. They got Doug McDermott at about 14 million, they got Devontae Graham at about 12 million, and they have a ton of draft picks that they could combine with them. Again, another way for them to get better, they could trade some of those contracts. They got Khem Birch at about 7 million too. Get another good role player, even maybe a star player if they combine enough of them. They could do a lot. They have perfectly set themselves up to be great in the next 2, 5, even 10 years, depending on how Wembanyama develops and stays healthy. Now, I'm very intrigued with the San Antonio Spurs and their even short-term outlook too.
Yeah, just looking at starters, and this is kind of just what I'm looking at here. Say they hold on to Trey Jones, 23 years old, 6'1", 6'4" wingspan. You got Devin Vassell, 23 years old, 6'5" with a 6'10" wingspan. Jeremy Sohan, 20 years old, 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan. Then, of course, Wemby, 7'5" with an 8-foot wingspan. And then probably Zach Collins, 25 years old, 6'11" with a 7'1" wingspan. If they can get the mindset right for defense, which some of them already have that, I mean, and bringing in Wemby for that rim protection, I mean, the defense on this team's gonna be crazy. And that's kind of just what I'm looking at and what I'm thinking they're probably gonna roll with for starters. Maybe roll in and out Keldon Johnson. But yeah, the average age of that team we're talking is 21 years old, 22 years old. I mean, that's crazy.
Oh yeah, they're super young. They don't have anything set in stone yet for their future in terms of a lineup, I can't imagine. And like I said, they could bring guys in and out through free agency, through trades, but no, they got a ton of versatility on that team. I love Jeremy Sohan, by the way. He was already a great defender in his rookie year. And he's been talking that talk on Twitter about LeBron. I know people have kind of been making a big deal about that. I don't know if you've seen it, but he's got confidence. Keldon Johnson's got plenty of confidence. I feel like he's older than 23, but he's only 23. I love Devin Vassell, too. He had a really quiet, really good transition from second to third year. Really good young player. I like him a lot. But a lot will ride on Victor Wembanyama and how he develops, how good he'll be his rookie year. And then the next thing will be health. Will he be able to stay healthy? He hasn't really had a bad injury or nothing even close to it up until this point, which is great, but there's always that risk with agile 7-foot+ big men. We've seen it with Chet Holmgren already. We've seen it with plenty of guys before him, Yao Ming, Greg Oden, you can go back in time with that. But it tends to happen a lot, and I'm really hoping it doesn't for Victor Wembanyama.
Right, and going back to like rotation players, kind of like what you said, assuming, just to reiterate what you said, assuming that nothing too crazy happens in free agency and everyone kind of stays put for the most part. Like you say, Keldon Johnson, and then you'll have 20-year-old Blake Wesley, 20-year-old Malachi Brannan. You could see major development from all those guys. Jeremy Sohan still, I mean, just such young guys. We're going to see major development from the Spurs. We all know how good the development team is on the Spurs. And I mean, we're going to see crazy development in the next, like you said, 2 to 5 years probably from this team. And a lot does ride on Wemby, but we'll see. I'm excited to see it. We'll see what happens, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, that'll kind of be the final conversation they need to have too. Do they want to do the rebuilding with all of them, try to develop them more, or do they want to formulate that trade package? We'll talk about Jaylen Brown more a little bit here, but he could be available if they want to trade for a guy like him. We don't know for sure if he will be or not, but he's kind of given that indication. They could definitely form a trade package for him or a different star player, whoever it might be. If they don't want to go the 2 to 5 year development plan here and just put an immediately good team around Wembanyama, I don't think they'll do that. I'm not really sure they should do that either. I think they'll do at least one more year rebuilding, then evaluate all their young talent after that. But they'll be a lot of fun to watch, and I would not be entirely shocked if they're kind of on that lower tier end, kind of like an Oklahoma City Thunder this year that made a really good push and kind of stayed in it the whole year and then could have got through the play-in tournament.